Hey there, fellow travelers. John here from the Tolkien Road. I just got my copy of The Nature of Middle-earth in the mail, and I'm very excited about it. Right here. Boom. J.R.R. Tolkien's new book, The Nature of Middle-earth. This is something I've been looking forward to ever since I first heard about it, and especially since having the chance to chat with its editor, Carl Hostetter, about a month ago. We had him on the podcast on the show to discuss the book. It wasn't out yet, so we could only talk about certain things. There was like a sample out of it. So we got to talk some about it, but not the whole thing. So I'm very excited to finally have this in my own hands and be able to tell you guys a little bit about it. So I'm going to start off with a little snippet from the Dust Jacket because I feel like this describes what this book is all about pretty well. The writings collected in The Nature of Middle-earth reveal the paths that Tolkien took as he sought to better understand his own unique creation, with greater precision, fullness, and consistency. Varying in both scope and subject, they include the operation of time and aging among both the immortal and mortal peoples of Middle-earth, and the surprising degree of mathematical precision and skill Tolkien brought to bear to achieve rigor in this matter. Such foundational matters as creation, life, fate, and free will, the nature and relationship of bodies and spirits, of authority and purpose and death, vivid descriptions of the land, beasts, and peoples of Numenor. That's a pretty big one right there. Lord of the Rings on Prime, take note. Hope you all got your copies. The appearance of various characters in the Lord of the Rings, including which did or did not have beards. All these writings reveal hitherto unguessed ideas and details of Tolkien's thoughts, imagination, and subcreation that are variously surprising, profound, and even charming. So this thing sounds amazing. And from what I've been able to see of it so far, I've definitely read some parts of it so far. It's pretty cool. This is basically what I'd call a Tolkien superfan's dream. Tolkien superfan nirvana right here, right? This is Tolkien superfan Valinor right here. This is really a treasure trove of answers to a lot of questions that people have been talking about and debating and saying, you know, why didn't Tolkien ever answer this question? And it's really organized in that fashion. A little bit about the title real quick. So the title, The Nature of Middle-earth, what Carl basically told us is it's a dual meaning. Okay. So there's nature in the sense in which most of us use it in an everyday sense, right? Nature in terms of the natural world, the world around us. We heard in that description the talk about vivid descriptions of like the land and the animals and the plants and all these kinds of things. But there's also the idea of nature in the sense of the metaphysics, right? The things that underlie everything else. Nature in a much deeper philosophical sense, like the nature of man, right? The nature of creation. And so this book deals with both of those matters. Okay, so that's the dual meaning. That's where this title comes from. The book is divided into 3 parts plus appendices. All right. Part 1 is called Time and Aging. Part 2 is called Body, Mind, and Spirit. And part 3 is the world, its lands, and its inhabitants. There are some very alluring chapter titles. So there's a total of 23 chapters in the first part, 17 chapters in the second part, and 22 chapters in the third part. The 2 appendices are, the first one is metaphysical and theological themes, which is very interesting to me. And this is something I hope we can get Carl back on here very soon to talk about. I've read a good bit of that essay and it's really interesting. And then appendix 2 is glossary and index of Quenya terms. For those of you who don't know, Carl is really, he's one of the, I'll just say he's one of the hot shots when it comes to Tolkien's languages. He's been doing that for a long time. And that's really where he made his mark initially. So he's got a lot in here about the philology, right? The study of Tolkien's languages. So I'm going to read you some of the chapter titles that stand out to me. So the first chapter of the first part is the Valian Year. And there's a lot dealing with timescales and like just how long the years in Valinor was, how long that period was. We get Eldarin traditions concerning the awakening, right? So this would be like the awakening of the elves, like what actually happened and all of that. The aging of the elves, and this is a really interesting one. I've read actually a good bit of this section. This has to do with the fact that even though elves are immortal, they actually do age in a way, right? They actually have a structure to their lifespan. And it's really interesting to hear what Tolkien has to say about that. Key dates concerning the Quindi and their mode of life and growth. We've got Elvish ages and Numenorian, and time and its perception. So a lot of interesting stuff there from part 1. Part 2, and there's a lot more, by the way. Part 2, we've got beauty and goodness, gender and sex, Eldarin hands, fingers and numerals, hair, beards. This will be a very exciting one for many people, is the discussion of beards. I love beards, of course. So knowledge and memory, description of characters, fate and free will. This is where we're talking about, like, you got a chapter on beards, right? That's very natural. And then you got a chapter on fate and free will, which is very metaphysical, right? So we got both of those ideas of nature right there. The visible forms of the Valar and Maiar, that one is really interesting. Okay, so I'm really excited to see what Tolkien has to say there. Elvish reincarnation and death. So some interesting, very interesting stuff to talk about there in part 2. And then part 3, the world, its lands, and its inhabitants. All right, we have powers of the Valar, the making of Limbus, dwellings in Middle Earth, the founding of Nargothrond, Manwë's ban. All right, I believe. So I'm not sure if by that it means it's referring to the ban of the Noldor, or if it's referring to the ban of the Numenorians. So we'll just have to see when we get to that chapter. Let's see here. So we've got the aging of Numenorians, okay, of the land and beasts of Numenor, the Numenorian catastrophe and end of physical Aman, Galadriel and Celeborn, Sylvan Elves and Sylvan English, note on the delay of Gil-galad and the Numenorians, and the rivers and beacon hills of Gondor. So, you know, this thing, I can't wait to dig into this and talk about this more with you guys. I am very excited about this book. I think it's going to live up to all of our expectations. As I said before, this is a Tolkien superfan's dream. So I definitely plan to cover the details of this book on this channel in the coming days, weeks, and months. So make sure you are subscribed and you've clicked that notify bell right down below. And while you're at it, hey, go and give this video a like. I always appreciate seeing those likes on this, knowing that you guys like it. Also, make sure and watch our interview with Carl, which I'll link to in the notes below. And we're planning to have Carl back, definitely. In fact, I hope to have him back maybe several times, because there's so much to talk about in this book. And he's a very knowledgeable, right? He's obviously very knowledgeable about the content of this book, but he's also very knowledgeable just about the Legendarium in general, about Tolkien's languages and all these things. And finally, so that's another reason you're going to want to subscribe, right? That's another reason you want to subscribe. Finally, Carl's been known to lurk in the comments around these parts. So you never know, if you got specific questions for him, hey, maybe leave a comment down below, and Carl might pop up and read it and respond to you directly, right? Which is pretty cool. So so definitely do that. Leave your comments with whatever questions you have. Even if Carl doesn't see them immediately, I will do my best to see if I can get answers for you guys with whatever questions you come up with. So relating to this book and Middle-earth questions that Carl might be able to answer. All right, finally, make sure to pick up your copy of The Nature of Middle-earth. Pick up your copy of this bad boy right here. I'll link to a place to purchase it in the notes below. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I will talk at you next time.